Welcome back, everybody, to the first episode of the new season of It's Called Football. Jerry Walker alongside me this year is going to be Jackson Fyda, and we're going to be bringing you all the Premier League coverage possible that we can on this show. We will be doing another one, so there'll be two shows a week, one specifically on the Premier League, and then we will do one on the other big leagues around Europe. First and foremost, Jackson, how are you doing today?
We're good. We're good. Excited to get this going finally.
Yeah, we've had it in the talks for a little bit, but it's finally come to fruition, and I think we're both really excited to get going. And we love talking about the Premier League and just soccer, football in general.
Of course, yeah. It's nothing better than it.
Yeah, honestly, we do the daily show once a week, always talking about football, so it's a good time. And obviously, we are the two that kind of carry the Vendetta Sports Media soccer football group. We will go with that. But let's start with this weekend. This past weekend was the first weekend of the Premier League season. Some teams stood out really well. Some teams kind of disappointed, I would say. But I want to just start with the very first match, the entire season, Man City and Burnley. And boy, it didn't take very long for Man City to show why they are the three-time defending champions of the Premier League.
Nah, it took literally, 4 minutes?
Yeah.
For Haaland to score a tap in, and you're like, all right, well, we're back. We're back. He's back. Took no time at all.
It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. I mean, you think, sure, it's Burnley, newly promoted side. They did end up getting a red card late, so we're down to 10 men. That was beside the point. It was 3-0. It was so comfortable. Erling Haaland with 2 goals in the first half. First one in the 4th minute, like you said, and then another in the 36th minute. And I just don't see where they stop. I don't see anyone who can really stop them. I know it's the first week of the season, but when you come out like that, it's just so disheartening for everybody else and gives you a whole load of motivation and confidence moving forward.
Yeah. And I was hoping Burnley could at least hold on longer than 4 minutes. I didn't have a chance to watch this game, sadly. When I look, I was like, bro, 4 minutes in. I was hoping Burnley would be stout defensively. You have Company as your manager, great in the championship. I was hoping you could at least, get a half, 0-0, which obviously was incredibly wishful thinking considering Haaland got 2 in the first. Which, God, he's back, which is terrifying for the rest of the league. But, yeah, dude, City looked good. Started out, dominated from start to finish. And it could have been more. So.
It really could have been. They seemingly dominated on the shots as well. They had 8 shots on target compared to Burnley's 1. 70% possession. It was just an absolute domination. But on the other hand, they have lost one of their star players, probably the most important player. You could argue Haaland, but Kevin De Bruyne is out for the next 4 months. And it looked weird. It was a no contact injury. It seems like obviously the end of in the Champions League final, he came off early on with a hamstring injury. Looks like he retweaked that, and it was very noticeable the next couple minutes after he came off that City we're missing him already, but there's so much depth and kind of made up for it. But
I mean, there is depth, but at the same point in time, it's KDB. It's Kevin De Bruyne. You don't replace Kevin De Bruyne. You really don't. As an Arsenal fan, I don't think any player scares me more when they get the ball in the final third than him. Because he can dribble and then shoot and score, or he will just pick out an incredibly difficult ball with ease with both feet that City will score. And he's the most terrifying player, I feel like, to watch come at you in the final third. Because he just creates. He creates goals. He creates assists. And even if he doesn't create goals or assists, he just creates havoc. He just panics the opposition defense. So, I mean, yeah, they have depth, but losing him is a huge deal.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm not thinking they're going to struggle too much, but a lot of where Haaland's success comes from De Bruyne, even if he doesn't play the final ball, I feel like.
Because De Bruyne just creates so much more space, and he has the ball. Suddenly, defenders have to focus on him, and that's when Haaland last season, especially, would find those open lanes and just run through the defenders. And De Bruyne drops a pinpoint perfect pass that he's one of 3 people in the world that probably can do those. and it's just a goal every time. It's going to be a big loss for City, but like you said, it's that team is so deep, so talented that they will find a way to make up for it. At least in the Premier League, I think it'll be in Europe, depending on how long he will actually be out for, where we'll see the issues coming.
Yeah, and as much as you hate to like have this mentality, if you're some of the other big clubs, you look at this as, okay, we got to strike now. De
Yeah.
Bruyne is out for 4 months. That's a huge deal. That is a huge deal. So you're wondering if some of these other teams, as terrible as this is, because you never want someone to get hurt, but you're like, can we take advantage of this now? Now they're not going to be as dangerous in attack as they usually are. Granted, they're still City. They're still going to be damn good. But I kind of wonder if some teams, like on an Arsenal, Newcastle, are like, all right, now maybe we can go and take advantage of this when we play them and not have to worry about De Bruyne as much.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see because likely he's out until at least the new year. When he does come back, it'll be interesting to see how good he is and how much he can actually play still. But that's where City's always had the advantage the last few years is, well, we'll say last year was the perfect example. They weren't the best team in the first half of the season. Mm-hmm. Arsenal was clearly the much better team, and it was just City knew how to play. And as soon as that New Year's hits, something switches in their mentality, and it's just go, 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 full pedal to the metal, and they run teams round, which that's going to be one of the interesting things to see this year because obviously Arsenal does have Champions League again this year. Man U has Champions League. Newcastle's in the Champions League. All these teams have that extra few games as well that they aren't really used to at the high intensity level. Sure, they've played Europa and Conference League at times, but it's not the same as having to go and play against a Real Madrid or a Bayern Munich. The intensity is just not as high to an extent, I would say. Whereas City has done that, obviously winning the treble last year. So it's going to be interesting to see if when Kevin De Bruyne comes back, how he'll be able to fit in and kind of keep that momentum going and see if they do what they do every year and just make a run the second half of the season where these other teams might be tiring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just feel bad for De Bruyne, honestly, in all this. No. Obviously, getting hurt yet again in a Champions League final, and then first day back, you're out again. You're out for months. Like, you got to feel for him because you never want to see anyone get hurt, especially someone like De Bruyne who just brings so much magic every time he steps onto the field. Like, huge loss for the league. But I wonder if teams, again, like they play Newcastle, what is it, this Saturday?
Yes, sir.
You got to wonder if they're like, all right, now, as terrible as it is, we can take advantage of this. Now we can focus more on Haaland and not worry as much about De Bruyne. And I wonder how that'll impact them and who will step up to kind of be that creative spark plug for him. You'd hope it'd be Foden, but I don't think Foden's got that in him just yet. Other than that, I don't know who will step up in that same way. Like Kovacic is not that guy right now, so I don't know who will do it for City. I'm curious to see what they'll do.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. We will touch on that Newcastle and Man City match in a little bit. We bring up Newcastle. They looked damn good this weekend. Aston Villa is no slouch by any means. I think in our Premier League roundtable and power rankings, we had Aston Villa as a top 5 or 6 team, and Newcastle just disposed of them.
Oh, yeah.
One took 6 minutes for Tonali to get his debut goal for Newcastle in the Premier League, and after that, it was just Newcastle the entire time, pure domination.
Mm-hmm. And dude, again, like you said, Aston Villa are no slouches. Like we thought going in, like this team is good when you look at the players they brought in. Diaby especially is one who's really excited me, and he did score. He scored the equalizer, made it 1-1. But Newcastle looked unreal. Isak, first of all, is so good. That third goal they scored, the little chip, was actually insane. Like he is so good. Now Tonali, I don't know, people are questioning whether Tonali should have made the move or not. He looked pretty good in his debut. He looked pretty good. He gets a goal. And then Callum Wilson gets a goal. And then Harvey Barnes, new signing from Leicester, gets a goal. They were so good last year. And they just added on top of that. I still think their center back partnership of Botman and Cher is just so good. And now their attack is actually unreal. Isak, I think, is one of the more like
He has to be one of the most underrated strikers in the world, if not the Premier League for sure.
yeah, because he's actually so good with that size and that ball control that he has. He's unreal. And then on the bench you have Callum Wilson, who is an unbelievable goal scorer as well. So they look so good. Bruno Guimaraes looked absolutely unreal. Almiron's looking good. Gordon was actually looking pretty good.
Yeah.
I'd say. And then, yeah, Tonali again. And then their back line, even Dan Burn, man. Even Dan Burn. Everyone's looking good right now. Newcastle looked so good to start it off. If you're a Magpie fan, you've just got to be so happy right now.
Yeah, everything Eddie Howe is doing there is just working at the moment. Did last season to get them fourth place, end up in a Champions League spot. But we see Chelsea, I'm using them as the other example. Chelsea goes and spends all this money on just signing whoever the hell they want. Clearly doesn't work. Newcastle has signed a ton of players. They do have some of that Saudi money, but it works. They sign with intention. They sign with a plan, and they're bringing players that are going to fit their system and fit what they want to do. And that makes them really, really scary.
Well, yeah, look at, first of all, back four and goalkeeper are unchanged. So they built from the back. They built that in last year, which is super smart to do. I think you always got to build a foundation. Your defense is your foundation. And then you throw Tonali into the midfield. Other than that, everyone's been there besides Gordon.
Yeah.
Everyone's been there. You have Barnes, and then you have all these other guys on the bench. They kind of just added supplemental players that will be able to come in and help out a lot. You know? Whereas, again, Chelsea, man, I still feel like they have no squad plan. I think they just threw money at two center midfielders because they wanted to, and now they got them both. And I'm very curious to see how they'll play with Caicedo and Lavia now. I mean, obviously, one's a little more holding than the other, but I just feel like, yeah, like you said, Chelsea just throws money at people. Whereas Newcastle, it looks like they have a vision, they have a plan. And while they do have that Saudi money, what I kind of appreciate about their ownership is they don't give them unlimited money. No. They give them a set amount, and they're like, this is what you can spend on. And that's why they're purchasing so smartly. And it's working for them. So, yeah, Newcastle doing bits on the field and in the transfer market for sure.
Absolutely. And, I mean, I will have to mention this because Aston Villa did have a significant injury in the first half when it was 2-1 to Newcastle. Tyrone Mings suffered a very bad knee injury and had to be carried off on a stretcher, out indefinitely, and that's a big loss for them. But as good as much as the Newcastle signings came in and impressed, I was pretty impressed with Pau Torres. There was only so much he could do, but he did play pretty well considering he probably wasn't expecting to even get in all that much for this first match. But did a pretty decent job, I'd say.
Yeah. Again, I still think Villa's a good side, who has also done really well in the transfer market to build on a great year last year. I just think Newcastle is just better, far better, and they're playing them at home. They had energy. Like it was just not going to be a good day for Villa when you look back on it. I mean, looking ahead, I thought it was going to be a great game. I thought it was going to be close, but looking back, it kind of makes sense that it went that way. I still think Villa is going to be fine. They're going to have a good season. I think Diaby, great signing. Pau Torres, great signing. Tielemans, great signing. You have that with all the players from last year. I think they'll be fine, especially under Unai Emery.
Absolutely. I mean, he's such a good manager. He'll find a way to get the best things out of all his players. But I'm going to move on to another match that happened over the weekend, Saturday. Your boys, Arsenal, took down Nottingham Forest 2-1, and it seemed pretty convincing early on, but it got a little sketchy there at the end.
Yeah, 2-0. Seemed rather matter of fact. And Nketiah, 26-minute goal. First of all, oh my gosh, Martinelli. That pass, that assist was unreal.
Yeah.
He's a baller. I was thinking Trossard should get the start based on preseason.
Martinelli.
And Martinelli just showed why he's getting the start. I mean, to do a route-led pass like that right to Nketiah, who then had the composure to take his time, get the few touches he needed to, and then finish. Obviously, took a little deflection past Matt Turner, but still good goal, which is huge for Nketiah because right now no Jesus, which shocker he's not playing. But we need our striker to step up, and he did. And then right after that, Saka's goal was just absolutely unreal. Left-footed cannon into the near top corner. Definitely side netting though. He was beautiful. No chance for Matt Turner, who I'm going to give him a shout. I actually think he played quite well for his Premier League debut. Could have been better. But I think on the 2 goals, he couldn't really done anything.
Yeah.
My main criticism for him would be that play where I think it was Nketiah got his foot on it and blocked his long pass. That's the only one where he definitely needed to do better, but I still think he did all right. Anyway, yeah, 2-0 looked comfortable, and then literally off a corner kick, it was like a 2-on-6, and they scored, which is crazy. But yeah, Taiwo Awoniyi.
On the counter.
Dude, when I was watching it, I was like, because I got the notification on my phone that said 2-1, and I saw the counter just start. I was like, bro, are you kidding me? It was a 2-on-6. He literally, who was it who got the assist?
It was Anthony Alanga.
Yeah, he just dribbled for about 60 yards, 60, maybe 70, with like no one coming to shut him down, anything. I don't know what the hell Ben White was doing with Awoniyi. He literally let him walk across. He cuts it back, scores a goal. His final 10 minutes weren't very comfortable after that because 2-1, they get all the momentum mentally. Did hold on, did get the win, but definitely to be better from Arsenal. That wasn't good enough, I don't think.
Yeah, it was definitely a little sketchy at the end. The first half, I would say Arsenal played very, very well. Definitely the better side, but it was that kind of the second half. And when Forest started making some of their substitutions, they brought on Alanga 2 minutes before he got the assist on the goal. Mm-hmm. Their subs made a big difference, and they seemed like they were playing with no worries. They're like, oh, we're already down 2, might as well just go for it and see what happens. And worked out a little bit, not getting the result they wanted in the end. But at the end of the day, it's a good 3 points for Arsenal and something you need considering how Newcastle, Man City, and even Brighton did on this opening weekend because they looked very good. It was against Luton, gave Luton a rude awakening into the Premier League. Not surprising, but they looked good nonetheless.
I was hoping Luton might be in with that penalty. Yeah. 2-1, then you're like, oh, there we go. There, and just Matoma. Oh my gosh, he is so good.
Yes, he is.
I still think, man, that he is an absolute baller. Brighton. I know who was it in our round table wasn't very high on Brighton. I still am. I think De Zerbi's a good manager, and I still think they've got great players. I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're a talented team enough. It is going to be interesting to see who else they lose in this window because obviously it seems Caicedo is now gone. Mm-hmm. It's just they're one of the teams that reminds me of what Southampton used to be almost, where Southampton was always in that middle, a little on the high end of the middle teams, always at 9, 10, 11th place. And sure, Brighton did a little better last year, but they always kept losing their players, and that seems the same thing that's happening to Brighton. Yeah. All these other teams just have the more money to come in and swoop their players away, so is what it is there. But I do want to talk on a couple more. Some teams that really disappointed me. I want to start with Chelsea and Liverpool.
Yeah.
That was not a surprise that it's a draw once again. Could have been 2-0 Liverpool, but Mo Salah's goal was ruled out for offside, as was Ben Chilwell. He had a goal ruled out as well by VAR. Which VAR had themselves a day, or didn't have themselves a weekend, I guess, is one way to put it. But
yeah, rough go.
Yeah, especially that Man U Wolves one, which I'll talk on in a second. But this is one that obviously you could tout it as the match for Caicedo. 2 teams that wanted him, and neither team really threw much effort out there. It seemed very, very disappointing for Chelsea at home, and even Liverpool with Klopp in their first match wasn't all that special. And it was capped off for Liverpool by Mo Salah, very, very upset when he went off to the bench and was subbed out.
Yeah, Chelsea did better than I thought they'd do, honestly. I thought Liverpool was going to take this one. Yeah, just wasn't great in general. I do find it interesting that Disasi got the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was. I didn't even know if he'd start for them. Their back line was what Silva, Disasi, and Colwell.
Yeah.
Dude, looking at this Chelsea team now, it's like a shell of the Chelsea we knew that won the Champions League.
Oh,
So it's kind of interesting. That's why I still don't think they'll be quite there, but they actually did better than I thought they were going to do.
Mm.
Liverpool, I thought, was far more disappointing, in my eyes at least, because I expected more from them.
I mean, at the end of the day, they had one shot on target.
Yeah, like that's not
going to win you anything.
No, not at all. And you look at the stats, Chelsea in general, I'd say outplayed them. The only thing, Liverpool had 13 shots, but you can shoot whenever you want.
Yeah.
Without getting them on target, I feel like that actually matters. Chelsea won that category. They had more possession. Liverpool had 13 fouls, which is a lot compared to Chelsea's 5. So I feel like that just kind of gives it kind of the rundown of the game. Chelsea ultimately, I think, played better and deserved more. So if I'm Klopp, I'm going to be more disappointed because Liverpool didn't have a great year last year. This isn't how you want to start it off. For Pochettino, you obviously want the win. You're at home, but with really like all these new guys in your lineup against Liverpool, this isn't a bad start.
Not at all.
Yeah, look at all the players. They had Jackson playing, Chukwuemeka, Colwell, Disasi. I'll throw Gallagher in there. He didn't start last year. Like all these kind of new faces in a lineup, and Sanchez. So it's really not a bad start for them, I'd say.
No, it really wasn't for Chelsea. I'm more disappointed, like you said, in Liverpool. Really should have. I expected them to be a top 5 team fighting for that 4th Champions League spot, and it just hasn't. This didn't look like, obviously, first game of the season. No, stuff will change, but seeing reports that Mo might want out now, and it's that 7th season for Jurgen Klopp. I've seen it so many times before, and somehow everything falls apart for him wherever he is in his 7th season. We'll see if that happens with Liverpool.
Yeah.
One other match that we really need to talk about, and how at least the team that ended up winning had no right in their mind to win this one, was Man United against Wolves. Man U was dominated. They were absolutely dreadful for the majority of the match. Rafael Varane got the goal to make it 1-0 and ultimately win it. But that wasn't the big story. The big story was the 96th minute. Andre Onana goes up to try and punch the ball away, completely misses a ball that had already been headed by the Wolves player, takes him out. Everyone was saying all over social media, the commentators, other pundits later after the match, all saying it's a blatant penalty. What does the ref in VAR do? Nothing. Actually, they gave a yellow card out to the Wolves manager, Gary O'Neill, instead. Didn't even look at it, and I don't know. That just seemed outrageous. Not a surprise. It's Man U. It's Old Trafford. Fergie's still paying the refs, but
yeah. Right when I clicked on the game, it's really an interview of O'Neill saying that they literally admitted, like, oh yeah, it was a penalty after the fact.
Yeah.
I don't get how you can look at that and say that's not a penalty. He absolutely clattered him. I don't care if it's a goalkeeper. This is the player. You come in and do that, and the ball's not even there. That's a foul. I don't care where you are, who you are. That's a foul. They didn't even look at it.
That's the thing they got.
He didn't even run over and look.
No.
Like how? And again, even taking that out of the fact, Man U was awful and did not deserve anything from that game. Wolves should have scored 3. Like they should have put a few past them. Well, that one they hit it like straight at Onana. I forget who hit it, but he could have put it either side and it should have been a goal. Like, Man U did not deserve anything from that. And that penalty, no call, was absolutely horrendous. Like that, watching that, I'm like, dude, he literally committed assault on international television and got away with it. Like that it made no sense at all.
And the craziest thing is, had that been pretty much any other team that Wolves was going against, 9 times out of 10, that's going to be a penalty.
Yes.
It's that 97. It's that Fergie time that they've had for decades.
It's
Man
Man U at Old Trafford. So suddenly we don't want to blow our whistle. We don't want to do anything.
And I don't know if you saw this aspect or this part of it. The referee and the VAR ref or VAR official are removed from their matches this weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There was such an atrociously missed call that the referee alliance or whatever their group is came out and said, yeah, that was a blatant penalty after the match. Should have been given. These two guys have now been banned from their matches this weekend, which I like that aspect of it. They're kind of holding them responsible, but come on, man. How do you not call that? Or even look, like I don't at the end of the day, if they call it or not, it should have been called, but at least have a look at it.
At least have a look.
And I thought the ref was going over to look at it, and then he just showed a yellow to O'Neal and walked away.
Dude, I know. Which, first of all, O'Neal was well within his right to go off on that.
Yeah.
That was terrible. You don't even look. That's why we have VAR. Who was the VAR official for that? Because they fucked up. And then it was Hooper, right? Center ref?
So
yeah, like dude, in live time, I still think it should have been called in live time. But even if not, like more understandable, I just don't get how you don't have a look. That's why we have the technology in place to avoid stuff like this. But even taking away the penalty, if you're a Man U fan, or better yet, you're Ten Hag, you are disappointed as hell. Not just because of the penalty. You got outshot 23-15 total, and Wolves had 6 shots on target. Man U had 3.
Yep.
Won the possession battle by 1%. It's 50 or 2%. Sorry, 51-49. It's basically dead even there. You're at home. You're Man U against Wolves. How do you get outplayed like that on opening day? Like to that degree, 15 fouls.
One guy I want to just talk about how disappointed he was, and I will say this is the guy I picked to be kind of a flop signing just because I feel like there's too much pressure and he won't live up to it. Mason Mount. He was virtually non-existent in this match at all. There's all this hope that he was going to come in and be the midfield savior and whatnot, but it wasn't to be, and he just seemed invisible.
Is not surprising at all. I agreed with you when you said that. I still went with Højlund up top because I still think he's going to be a more like high level flop than Mount. Because in my mind, at least, Mount just isn't that good.
No.
I've never thought he's that good. Hey, he's good. He's a Premier League player, but he's not an elite Premier League player like people make him out to be.
He's the kind of guy that we would see spend his time, or he would fit much better on a team. Nothing against them, but like Brighton's, the Crystal Palaces, the Brentfords of the world, maybe even Tottenham because they're kind of around there now. But it doesn't seem like a player that really should be playing at these top tier clubs, the Big Six, because he's not all that in my opinion. It sounds like same with you.
I literally thought that Tottenham signing James Maddison was a better signing than Harry Kane. Mason Mount. Mason Mount going to Manchester United. And honestly, Maddison actually played really well in his debut, whereas Mason Mount played like absolute crap. So, I mean, it's game 1, but you said it. You called him. You predicted that he would be the biggest flop. If he keeps playing like this, yeah. Because that was not good. And not good for Man U in general. But yeah, Mount did not have a very inspiring debut, to say the least.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. But that kind of wraps up. I can run over the other scores of match week 1. It was Brentford 2, Tottenham 2. Sheffield United lost their return to the Premier League at home 1-0 to Crystal Palace. Everton lost to Fulham 1-0. And Bournemouth and West Ham fought to a exciting 1-1 draw.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, not a whole lot. I will want to say, as good as Saka's goal was, did you see Jared Bowen's goal for West Ham?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
If you haven't watched that, guys who are watching this, go check that out. It was an absolute banger of a goal.
He's a baller.
He is.
I always thought he is. He's never going to get the caps with England just because there are better players ahead of him in those positions, but he's an absolute baller.
Absolutely. He's a dog. So that is exciting to watch and see him score that. But let's look ahead at this upcoming weekend. We have about 10, 15 minutes left in this first episode of It's Called Football. Match of the week has to be Man City and Newcastle. Don't care what you want to call it. It can be the oil rig derby, Saudi or the Arab derby. It's a great time. It's going to be a very, very entertaining match because these two teams dominated and looked like probably the two best teams considering their opposition the first week of the season. What are you looking for in this one, and what are you expecting?
Well, we kind of touched on it a little earlier. I'm looking to see how City does without De Bruyne pulling the strings. I'm curious to see how they'll approach the game, who will try and take that role a little bit more. So yeah, I don't know who's going to step up into that role. Newcastle, I'm really curious to see how they're going to be in their attack. I think their defense is going to be very solid. I think Haaland's going to struggle. I like Botman a lot, first of all. I think he will do – Botman and Schär are going to do very well against Haaland, I feel like, because they're good. They've got a very good partnership. I think they're going to be tuned in on him. I could see this being a game easily where Haaland is not very involved, kind of like against Arsenal in the Community Shield. And it's going to be someone else who has to step up. And usually you'd have De Bruyne to do that. So that's kind of what I'm curious to see. That's like my main thing now that he's hurt. And in my mind, I really want to say it's going to be Foden. But I just don't know. Because Foden has his moments, and he can turn out the midfield like no one else. But he just doesn't have that final little bit of quality like De Bruyne does at most times. So that's going to be the one that's really interesting to me. And also seeing Isak going up against City's defense. Because he's a handful. And not only that, but you have Almiron running, maybe Gordon, Murphy, and you bring on Callum Wilson at the end, who can just be a physical presence, who can also run and score goals. So this is going to be a fun one, I think. I still think City – actually, I'm calling a tie here.
Will it be as exciting as that 3-3 thriller we had last year when it was at Newcastle?
No, because St. Maximin's not there.
That's true.
St. Maximin was there. I think we could have some fun. He was fun. But I think it's going to be very structured from both sides, I feel like. I don't want to say 0-0. I think it'll be 1-1.
I think it's going to be one of those matches that it's early in the season. Neither team really wants to give too much of their style and tactic away. But at the same time, if you come out and say your City, come out and win this 3-1, 3-2 even, and play your style without De Bruyne and just look dominant, that's a worrying message to the rest of the league, the rest of those teams contending. Because Newcastle is a good team as well. And put it the other way, if Newcastle comes in, even gets a draw against Man City, who are now UEFA Super Cup champions, as well as everything else they've won in the last calendar year.
Minus Community Shield. But
yep. But no, if they come out, get a draw at Man City, or even if they do pull off the win, even better looking things for them. And it's, oh, God, I know it's early in the season, but we have this win over the 3-time defending champions on our resume now. There's nothing we can't do, and it gives them just such a boost of momentum and a boost of confidence ahead of the rest of the season.
Mm-hmm.
We'll say it is going to be interesting to see what happens with De Bruyne. He was replaced by, in the Super Cup, they played that midfield of Jack Grealish, Phil Foden, Cole Palmer, Rodri, and Kovacic. So interesting to see what they go with that one, because they did play that 4 in the back with Gvardiol, Ake, Akanji, and Kyle Walker. Going to see how they come out against Newcastle, because they proved their midfield and attack can score whenever and however they want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's going to be a fun one to watch.
Yeah, and that one will be at 3 o'clock Eastern time on Peacock. So make sure you're watching that one, because that's our match of the weekend. Other ones that are interesting that I do want to talk a little bit about. Start with the one at 12:30 Eastern on Saturday, Tottenham and Man U. You said it, James Maddison outplayed Mason Mount in their first match. Is this something that we'll see in the second match? Do you think Tottenham will keep playing relatively well? Should they had a draw, or do you think Man U will kind of turn things around after that outrageous performance in the first week of the season?
Yeah, I mean, you always want to bet against Tottenham because it's Tottenham. But based on the first week, it's kind of hard to not think Tottenham's going to do well. Again, I think James Maddison going there was a great signing because he fits something for Tottenham they haven't had since Christian Eriksen departed, in my opinion, which is an absolute playmaker. Maddison's not the most flashy guy in terms of pure goal scoring, but his assists that he provides, his set pieces, everything. He's just very, very good at creating for others. And he can score by himself. It's obviously not as good as Christian Eriksen was at it, but I still feel like he fills that void for Tottenham that they haven't been able to fill for a while, back when they were very good during the Christian Eriksen days. And he showed up pretty well on the opening week. I want to say, was it 2 assists?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
For Maddison?
Yeah.
Yeah, Maddison has assisted both goals for Tottenham, first to Christian Romero and then to Emerson.
Which, right there, off the bat, doing what he needs to do, doing what he came in to do. And I think Tottenham's problem for me is kind of more I mean, obviously, we've seen that they can score. Now I'm just wondering, can they actually defend? Say what you want about Man U, they played terribly, but they didn't concede.
Yeah.
They didn't concede. Onana stayed firm, and despite getting outshot, they didn't concede. So that's kind of what I'm interested to see here is that contrast. Man U's attack looked absolutely limp, looked weak, whereas Tottenham was the other way around, I want to say. So this will be an interesting one. I do think Tottenham will take it, but I do rate Ten Hag as a manager. And I think he could very easily turn things around for him. But I still don't think Mount's going to provide for you the way you want him to. I really don't. So this will be a fun one to watch, but I think Tottenham's going to get it done.
Yeah, my big question, you mentioned Tottenham's defense, is will Christian Romero be back for that? Because he did come off with a slight knock in their match against Brentford last weekend. Kind of about that questionable game time decision sort of thing for this one against Man U. If he does play, I think it'll help Tottenham defensively, but without him, it's – I mean, Tottenham went up 1-0, then Romero came off injured, and over the next 20 minutes, they conceded twice and found themselves down 2-1. Wasn't exactly – it was kind of night and day. Davison Sanchez has had his moments in the past of class, but overall he's not anything special. He's not that guy.
I do like their new signing, Van de Wink.
Yeah, he looks good.
I think, yeah, he looked – or no, Van de Ven. Sorry, not Van de Wink. That just totally mixed two names together there. It's been a long day. But, yeah, Van de Ven, I think he's very good. He's young, and he's so fast that he's able to recover so quickly and make those critical tackles when necessary. I think he's a great signing for them. I think he'll be good. But again, like you said, with Romero out, it kind of just all fell apart. So, and yeah, I'm curious to see how the defense will look. How bad was Romero's injury?
It wasn't terrible, but it's enough that he's kind of – it was a slight knock, really. And I mean, it's one of those ones that it was a head collision, so it's like they kind of had to take him off, so there's not certainty if he's actually going to be healthy or not, or if he needs to be out for this match, maybe come back next week. So it's one of those that I have not found a lot of news about it, a lot of recent updates from Tottenham, kind of keeping it on the DL, especially with a couple more days to go ahead of their match with Man U. So I think it'll be a game time decision. So we can see.
Yeah, that will determine a lot, I feel like.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, Davison Sanchez is it's just not the greatest at times. So I think that'll determine a lot.
Absolutely. But, Jackson, are there any other matches that kind of catch you? I do want to – we'll talk on, at least briefly, that Crystal Palace and Arsenal one of 3 London derbies this weekend. We have Fulham Brentford on Saturday, West Ham Chelsea on Sunday, and Palace Arsenal on Monday. So 3 London derbies. Big question for Arsenal wise. Timber, newest signing, tore his ACL, so he is out for a minute. What are you expecting from Arsenal? Who's going to step in, replace him? How are they going to do against Palace?
Yeah, when you look, you got to like kind of wonder who's going to go in. I thought Timber was honestly doing fine since he's come in. Like, he's impressed me. He hasn't like stood out, but he's been solid. So obviously when he got hit, it was a little bit of a down the road because I just think, fuck, here comes Tomiyasu, which he does well sometimes, but then other times he's just terrible, and he'll probably be the one to replace him. I mean, hopefully, because it's Palace, who has lost their best players this summer. I forget if the Elise one is like confirmed yet, but
it is. Yeah, Elise is staying at Palace, so that's big for them. But
yeah, but still, you lose Zaha. I feel like we should still take care of this pretty comfortably. I don't think it'll be that big of a deal in this game, but yeah, we're gonna, because Timber's out for a fair amount, so we're gonna need someone else to step up, and hopefully Tomiyasu can find his form. He wasn't able to last year, which is why he didn't play as much. But hopefully he can get it together.
Could we see a world where Arsenal finds a way to start both Martinelli and Trossard with? Or I guess Timber's defender. I thought he was midfield for a second there.
No. Trossard and Martin. Well, Saka's always going to start.
Saka.
He's like locked in, so you're not taking him.
I feel like it's hard to replace Eddie, even though after he scored in the first match. But
that's where I was going to go. If you play Trossard at that false 9.
Yeah.
And then.
Because I think I would have said Martinelli played better than Eddie and Kedia in that first match. Mm-hmm. Sure, he had the goal, but Martinelli created that goal for him. I was just curious to see if there's a way they can do all 3 of them.
The way would be taking Kedia off, but you can't take him off after he scored.
Yeah.
You realistically can't, because Martinelli did create the goal, but he still had to finish it off, which at the end of the day is his job. It's not to create the goal, it's to score the goal. So I don't think you can take him off. But I have been thinking about this for a while now. You play Trossard in that false 9, and then just have Martinelli on the left, Saka on the right. Keep Havertz as far away from the number 9 as possible, by the way. Midfield, I love him, actually. I like him in the midfield.
It seems like it's where he should be playing. Maybe that center attacking mid if you play the cam, but he's not the 9.
Not a 9. Forget who was arguing that in the Slack chat. I think it was that Arav guy who I've never had an interaction with. And he was saying that he could be a number 9. I think it was Max and I were like, bro, shut up. No. He is not a number 9. You can tell because he can't score. That's what a 9 does.
That's a slight issue.
It's a pretty more than slight.
Yeah. What are you doing?
Yeah, keep him away from the 9. I'd say, a world where that happens, though, is you play Trossard at the false 9 and play Martinelli on the left, Saka on the right. Not going to happen this week. And Kedia scores. He deserves to play. But, dude, I've been thinking about that for a while and how that would look. Because realistically, Arsenal doesn't really score a lot of our goals. We don't score through our 9. We don't have, serious goal-scoring 9s. Even Gabby Jesus can't finish to save his life, in my opinion, half the time.
Yeah.
Even though he does actually score a fair amount because he gets in good positions, but he just can't score. So that would be interesting. I also like Trossard out wide, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those. My only other suggestion potentially is, can you throw Saka at that 9?
No.
Yeah, okay.
No, you want him on the wing, man. You don't want him there.
Down, being creative and all that sort of stuff.
Martinelli could play the 9, I think, better. But even then, you like him more on the wing because that's when you can be more explosive. So I'd say Trossard would have to be the one in there just because of that footwork.
Yeah.
He can get around, he can move, and do all that fun stuff.
What? We'll see. We're not managers at the moment, maybe in the future, but not at this current moment.
I don't think we
What
do.
they have Arsenal decides to do on Monday against Palace. Otherwise, not really any super tasty matches on note.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, apart from the other London derbies, we have Nottingham Forest against Sheffield United on Friday, Liverpool at home to Bournemouth, Wolves home to Brighton, and then on Sunday, Aston Villa home to Everton, and that West Ham Chelsea match. So, Jackson, anything else you want to discuss briefly? I know you got to head out soon, so
Longer episode next week, by the way.
we will.
We'll pick it up. But I'm curious to see how Chelsea will do at West Ham. I think West Ham. I think I gave them too much credit when I did my power rankings and stuff. I really don't think they're that good. Now that I take a step back and look at him like critically, ever since they lost Rice, I just feel like they've lost a huge part of their team that they just haven't replaced.
Yeah.
Might be my American bias coming in, but I don't know why they didn't go for Adams immediately. Definitely my American bias, but I think that would have been a good replacement. But I feel like they haven't really filled that void. So this is a huge moment, I think, for Chelsea to build some momentum on the road. London derby. Curious to see how they'll play. Liverpool against Bournemouth. Liverpool, this should be one that they should walk through. But if they play like they did last week, who knows? But this should be one that they walk through. This is another chance for them to gain momentum.
First match at Anfield this year. I mean, you did mention Adams. I don't want to bring him up real quickly. Looked like he was going to be going to Chelsea. Then that fell through as they went after Caicedo. Then it was saying he could be going to Bournemouth. Now all the reports I'm reading are that his transfer clause for relegation has expired. So it looks like he will be staying at Leeds for the foreseeable future, at least until January. Big news for the boys in the championship, but we'll see. And like you said, West Ham could have used him.
I think that's the one they should have gone for.
Yeah. Him like a Calvin Phillips type potentially, someone who can play that CDM that fills in that hole that Declan Rice left.
Yeah, Calvin Phillips would have been a great one as well. I mean, he's just rotting away on City's bench. I know he won everything he could ever want to win, but at this point, why not just go and play? That's another one. That would probably be better than Adams. Yeah. That would be better than Adams. But yeah, either one. I don't know why you wouldn't just go for that, because Rice was such an integral part of the way their team defended, the way they played, even the way they attacked. So huge opportunity, I think, for Chelsea to take advantage and get some momentum going.
Absolutely. And I will wrap it up with this one. Aston Villa at home to Everton. Everton's one of my teams. I think they could be going down. So I'm curious to see if Aston Villa turns it around after that 5-1 thrashing by Newcastle this past weekend. But Jackson, it's been a pleasure. You, the viewers, make sure you come back every week. We will be having another episode of the It's Called Football Premier League show, as well as the It's Called Football European special, where we discuss other leagues around Europe. All the latest news, all the latest action. Check it out again next week. And all this will be at the Vendetta Sports Media YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe so whenever we do or any of our colleagues release a podcast episode, you're there to watch it. Thank you, guys. See you next week.